at the blingy side of alcohol, I'll tell you a little bit about my love for alcohol. It's based on the aesthetic most of the time. And no, I'm not an alcoholic. Well, I don't think I am. But that's where the problem is.
Are
You
you
know,
trying to tell her? Do you need help? Do you need help,
hey,
assistance?
hey, where are you? That's the thing. Alcohol looks so attractive.
It
I'm a
does,
wine
yeah.
drinker. And, I've noticed like the wine brands have started labeling these wine offerings in so many different ways, different colors, different shades. And also, there's kind of new grapes, and you want to try a different grape, you want to try a different
What
type.
about those gold stamps
Oh, of
of
course. Yeah,
approval?
absolutely. And let's not talk about the wine tasting events. I think this is all about alcohol branding, and it is thriving, not just through adverts, but what we call dry branding, the sleek packaging, the lifestyle collaborations, the influencer events, and the limited edition drops. As South Africa moves closer to enforcing what is called stricter controls on alcohol promotion through the proposed Labour Amendment Bill. Traditional advertising may soon disappear through screens, billboards, and sport sponsorships. But there's another way that these brands are finding a way to actually advertise in a more covert way. We unpack how image and cultural position allow alcohol brands to thrive in plain sight, and why this silent strategy challenges both policy and public responsibility. We've got Kashifa Ancer on the line, the campaign manager of DG Murray Trust's alcohol harm reduction campaign. Thank you so much, Kashifa. Welcome on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I've spoken to you before, so it's lovely
Yeah.
to see your faces finally.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We love seeing your face too, and thanks for joining us on our live stream. Kashifa, let's talk a little bit about this because I started this on kind of my own personal experience because sometimes we disown our love for alcohol, and I say it's a love because I do love wine. I'm not promoting wine at all, but I'm trying to make it as if like it's not a problem, right? And the fact that I've got all these avenues that are calling for my attention to actually fill my wine fridge, I'm trying to find ways to justify them. But that's what I've seen today, that, drinking a type of alcohol is no longer just drinking something. It's almost like a cultural experience. Hey, go for the wine tasting. Hey, go to the wine farm. Hey, we've got this limited edition of this type of wine. Come through and check it out and get your purchase. And there's all these different things that are calling for our attention in the alcohol industry.
No, absolutely, you're right. I mean, we've moved away in recent years, especially with the rise of digital campaigns and social media. We've moved away from traditional alcohol marketing. And industry has found that I think it is a lot more impactful to sell an idea, a feeling, a lifestyle, a personality, even, as opposed to just selling the drink itself. And as you said, people want to go for the particular kind of grape or particular kind of labeling or look or feel, because alcohol has largely now been associated with status. What you can look like when you're having the drink may give people the impression that you have a certain kind of wealth, that you're a certain kind of uh, so you are in certain kind of social circles, even culturally as well. The kind of brands of alcohol that you have at a cultural event, be it an initiation or whatever the case is, we then start to associate alcohol brands with those kinds of events as well. And the more expensive the brand, the classier the brand, the more luxurious the look and feel, the more people are going to associate me with that kind of experience, even though it may not necessarily be what is reflected in your day-to-day life. So it's about the lifestyle. It's about what people can display to the public, and social media has been a large contributor to that. The idea of the lifestyle influencer has really given this kind of dry branding a boost, because now you're seeing somebody's quote unquote day-to-day life, and now you're able to visualize for yourself how alcohol can become part and parcel of your day-to-day life as well. outside of events, outside of celebrations, alcohol can now be a part of your day-to-day life, as part of your get unready with me type of nighttime routine. And so in that way, we normalize drinking, we normalize heavy and binge drinking as well, because it's associated with healthy, successful life, as it were. And that's what we all are striving to get.
Well, it sounds like there are a lot of issues, especially now with the play on social media, which also sort of bypasses a lot of the formalized policies around alcohol branding, alcohol consumption, and alcohol advertising. Let's take a quick break, Kashifa. Let's come back from the break. And I want us to continue to unpack this one. Someone would say, so what's wrong with this? I mean, the policies are in place, and the policies that are coming in are saying, hey, we're going to advertise less. So why wouldn't alcohol brands, who are also businesses, try to find other avenues to interact with the public and interact with their customers? What exactly is wrong with this dry branding? We'll continue and unpack that after this break.
Call us on +27 63 406 9126 and contribute to the conversation.
Madapiri pazoshitika. Madapiri pazoshitika.
Mafuta galimoto akwera mtengo mdziko la Malawi ndipo nkhani anthu ayilandira mosiyanasiyana ndipo mtolankhani nzathu mdziko la Malawi Kondwani Nyamasauka tili naye pa line pano kuti atifotokozere zambiri. Kondwani, kodi uli bwanji? Mafuta galimoto kodi akwera kufika pa bwanji?
Mafuta galimoto akwera amene tuyankhula pano kukambonena kuti usiku wathawu petrol wakwera kuchokera pa 2,530 kwacha kukafika pa 3,499 kwacha. Kuma nkhani ya mapercentage ndi 38.30%, pamene diesel wachoka pa 2,734 kwacha kukafika pa 3,500 kwacha, yomwe ikuyimira kuma percentage 28.02%.
Zoshitika pa nthawi ya 6 koloko kufikira 7 koloko madzulo. Lolemba mpaka lachisanu ndi Madapiri.
Darubini ya Afrika na I am Henry Shakif.
Raisi Yoweri Kaguta Museveni amezindua ilani ya chama tawala cha NRM ya kuanzia mwaka 2026 mpaka mwaka 2031. Taarifa hii ikoje?
Kweli kabisa, Rais Yoweri Kaguta Museveni muda mchache uliopita aliweza kuhutubia mkutano ambao uliohusisha wanachama wakongwe na hali kadhalika wanachama waandamizi wa chama tawala cha NRM, yani National Resistance Movement.
Na katika kuzindua hiyo ilani yake ya chama tawala, pengine wana Uganda wamekuwa wana yapi ya kusema? Hisia zao zinaeleza nini haswa?
Kuna hisia tofauti. Kuna wale ambao wanamuunga mkono, wanaunga Museveni, lakini kuna wale ambao kwamba amekuwa akirudia mara kwa mara hayo matamshi.
Darubini ya Afrika kila Jumatatu hadi Ijumaa kuanzia saa 11 kamili hadi saa 12 kamili jioni majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Palesa and Benjamin fuel your day with fresh African perspective on Channel Africa.
We're having a conversation this morning with Kashifa Ancer, campaign manager of DG Murray Trust's Alcohol Harms Reduction Campaign. And beside the fact that, South Africa is moving towards enforcing stricter controls on alcohol promotion, alcohol brands continue to thrive with something they call dry branding and using imagery and cultural positioning. And that's allowing them to thrive under plain sight. And we're discussing why the silent strategy challenged both policy and public responsibility. Well, Kashifa, let's speak a little bit about this. Someone say, so what's wrong with this, right? There are stricter regulations that are coming into place, but it seems like these stricter regulations don't quite touch on this imagery and cultural positioning. So tell us the difference between why this challenges a policy.
Right. So, I think it'll be easy to explain this by going into what the Draft Liquor Amendment Bill covers in terms of advertising.
Yes, please.
And when the Draft Liquor Amendment Bill came out in 2013, obviously at that time, this kind of digital marketing phase in social media and the kind of psychological aspect of this kind of marketing wasn't something that was accounted for when that bill was drafted. This is something that we're seeing come up in recent times now. So that bill really accounted for very blatant, very obvious advertising, like your billboards, your TV ads, that kind of thing. But it didn't really account for adverts or should I say brand immersions that didn't necessarily say to a consumer drink, but that made alcohol branding visible in any aspect, be it a marathon, be it, like I said earlier, in a lifestyle video by a lifestyle influencer, a comedy show, a sports event, etc. It didn't account for just the fact that the brand is visible, even though there's actually no direct encouragement to drink. So that's part of the challenge now with the current status quo in terms of the draft liquor amendment bill. But when we look at the private members bill that was put forward in Parliament by the EFF a couple of weeks ago, we see that their advertising private members bill is a little bit more specific in that it also requires that we remove the ability for the alcohol industry to sponsor events and sponsor sports events and teams as well. Because as we know, it may not necessarily be that they're saying on the rugby field, hey, drink, but you're confronted with liquor brands visibly. You're associated with the colors, you associate the particular sports with drinking a particular brand of alcohol, for instance. And so that private members bill is something that accounts for that. In other countries in Africa, we do see that they are leaning a lot more towards curbing social media marketing in particular, because there's an increasing trend of young people, especially being influenced by social media influencers who are, of course, being paid by industry to promote their drink in a way that immerses their brand into your life and into your lifestyle, as opposed to telling people, hey, drink. The World Health Organization says that no amount of alcohol is safe. So industry has to find ways to entice people to still choose to make alcohol a part of their lives, despite the contradicting health warnings.
Kashifa, someone would say, are we not being too much? Can't we leave these people alone, right? I have to say, I'm so proud of myself. If you said I'd be having an empty wine bar or wine fridge right now, I would be like, no, you are lying. But what I had to do to actually deal with my love for wine is that I emptied my wine bar. My wine fridge is empty right now. I'm no longer a collector, Pali. And the thing is, I also had to not just do that, I had to look into my email address as well, because I had so many subscriptions of these wine things and I had to unsubscribe, right? And then also the events I go to, I'm kind of very deliberate that, if I know that I'm going to fall into a trap, I don't actually go. I'm not doing this because I've got an alcohol problem necessarily, but I think I did this because of my health, right? That was the main reason that was motivating me. But someone would say, these guys also have to survive. They're in a business. We can't just be taking these things away from them, because they are finding, inventive ways of selling their product. Alcohol is a product after all. As I've mentioned myself as an example, that there's so many ways in which it reaches out to you, but that's part of the business.
Right. So, alcohol industries absolutely do have a right to exist as a business and have a right to make an income or a profit from the sale of alcohol. These bills are not designed to take away from the industry. We've seen historically throughout economic situations that the alcohol industry has managed to survive. And they will continue to survive even if we do implement the bills that we are advocating for. With advertising particularly, we need to understand that alcohol is not an ordinary commodity, right? It's not milk or bread, a product that would add to society in any particular kind of way, right? So we have a loaf of bread, you advertise that you sell this particular brand of bread. We know that somebody buying that bread will gain nutrition from that bread. A child will be able to focus at school by having that bread in their lunchbox, that kind of thing. But alcohol, once it's consumed, often more times than not, there's a multiplied effect of harm. right, associated with alcohol consumption, especially with excess alcohol consumption. So advertising something that is going to have an effect of harm on society is not necessarily something that we want to encourage. You know, we can look at tobacco, for example, and tobacco advertising. Years and years ago, tobacco ads were everywhere. We associated smoking with our lives. We associated smoking with being in restaurants and things like that. And that started to shift. And we saw a major shift in health outcomes for people who associated smoking with a healthy lifestyle. But that is only because it was advertised to do that, even though the evidence contradicted that. So the same with alcohol is that we cannot sit idly by and watch a commodity that causes harm, especially among young people, especially among low-income communities, be advertised so freely as if it doesn't cause that harm. I think that's part of the challenge as well, is that the industry, through this kind of advertising or any advertising really, goes through the tick box of being able to say drink responsibly, not for sale to persons under the age of 18. But beyond that, don't need to provide any further context about, for example, how much is considered not necessarily safe to drink, because no amount of alcohol is safe, but how much is considered safer to consume. How much is considered to be over the limit. We tell people about the 0.05 driving limit here in South Africa in terms of blood alcohol content, but nobody actually knows how much, for example, beer that is per drink. Right, how many drinks actually gets me to that driving limit. Those are the kinds of things that industry is not communicating through their advertising. So you're left as a citizen to go, what is drinking responsibly? You're left to interpret that for yourself. And run with it. And unfortunately, if advertising continues to sort of mislead or jump around those kind of health warnings or safety figures through how they market their product, it becomes relatively unsafe, especially for our vulnerable communities.
All right, Kashifa, we'll need to leave it there. We've run out of time. Thank you so much for this. Where can we go, just really quickly, to get more information on the alcohol harms reduction campaign?
If you'd like to learn more about Rethink Your Drink, you can visit our website at www.rethinkyourdrink.co.za. You can also visit our parent website, which is www.dgmt.co.za. We're also on social media at Rethink Your Drink _ZA. So you can follow us on social media for links to all of our content and for insight into some of these bills, etc. And if you want to learn more about our policies, that is available on our resource center on our website as well.
Thank you, Kashifa. That's Kashifa Ancer, campaign manager of the DJ Murray Trust's Alcohol Harms Reduction Campaign. And let's